Welcome everyone to Empowering Patient Choice, the Upgrade Phenomenon. This is Wes Jankowski with CEO Dentist in Denver. Hope everybody's having a great day today. Today, my good friend and business partner, Dr. Rob Thorup, are going to share a strategy with you for presenting treatment that we believe is a true game changer for any practice. You know, there's a lot of negative energy today around insurance companies' contracts and their policies. Our doctors are telling us about low, flat, and in some cases even reduced reimbursements. And that's not to mention their increased competition from corporate dental practices. The doctors are telling us, and we're seeing, that the cost of providing patients with outstanding care and offering those high-quality products and services is continuing to rise. And doctors are feeling squeezed. You know, we did a podcast a few weeks ago with Howard Paran for Dentistry Uncensored, and Howard actually has an estimate that says the annual income for dentists is dropping by as much as $13,000 a year. And what we're finding is that dentists are feeling like they have to make ethical choices between offering the care and making a profit. So this upgrade strategy, or we also call it the trade-up strategy, changes that. And in this call, Dr. Rob and I, we want to crush some misconceptions, myths, some lies about what you can and cannot do, you know, when presenting treatment. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll feel empowered. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Robert Thorup. Rob, how are you?
Hey, good, Wes. Glad to be here with you tonight, and glad to have a whole bunch of you on this webinar that we're doing here. Thanks for being with us.
So, Rob, why don't you tell people a little bit about my practice, my business, and our relationship. I don't want to be doing a commercial in the front end here, but I'll let you drive for a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'll just take in advance. I'm going to advance it to the next slide here, and if you could, I'm going to have you click that button so we can both share. There's a handsome young man on the left, and then of course I'm like 25 years older than the picture on the right. But Wes and I have known each other for years and worked together in various arenas in the dental field, and I'm part of a company, and I'm a clinical developer. I'm over clinical development and one of the partners of My Practice, My Business. And we've been in the dental sector for years and years. We're a technology company. We've developed technologies that we've sold off to other players in the dental arena. And we develop things based on needs. And we developed a couple products, one called My Dental Stats and the other one My Dental Docs. And out of need in the dental industry, it's crazy, but I'm a practicing dentist, and I see a lot of products and training that are developed by individuals that aren't in the trenches like all of us on this conference call. And it's frustrating to me to see things developed when they're not even used by people in the trenches. So when we do this webinar tonight, I want you all to know that I am there with you, and the things I talk about are real, are solid, and things that we've been doing for over 20 years. So without further ado, you can just Google both Wes and I if you want to read our backgrounds. I'd rather just get right to the meat of this subject and take off. How does that sound, Wes?
Go for it.
Excellent. So remember your business classes, you guys, that we had in dental school? I went to UOP, graduated in 1989, so I just stated my real age, and we had the best business management and finance classes out there, in marketing, communications. It was great. All 6 hours, not 6 semester hours, you guys, 6 hours, and then crammed all that in one setting. And it's amazing to me how we're thrown into these this cottage industry with practices that will range anywhere from, you know, in production $500,000 to some guys are doing really well at up to $2 and $3 million in group practices, and yet we're not given any business training, and that's just crazy because other businesses that are out there, yeah, a lot of people have degrees in business. So I'm going to ask you the question: is it patient or is it consumer? Wes, is it patient or consumer?
You know, I think it's supposed to be about the patient, and again, it crosses both.
Exactly. It's both. And nobody ever taught us that. We were drilled into our heads that it's patient, patient, patient. That patient actually is a consumer. And so we have these challenges that face dentistry with these people that we serve that are also not just patients, but they're clients. And so Henry Schein did a study just a couple of years ago, and these are the problems that we face: new patients, cancellations, case acceptance, insurance reimbursements, which we'll talk about a lot tonight, and also coding procedures to prevent lost revenue. But I'm going to, just a quick note, new patients are important, but just let me say that taking care of your existing patients is as or more important than new patients, because we've proven that you don't need a lot of patients to have a very successful practice if you're taking care of those that you have. But the interesting thing is patients want oral health care and they want technology, but whenever we purchase more expensive things that are out there, what does it do? It increases our direct operating costs because our cost of goods go up. In fact, HSD and Patterson have done some reports lately showing the types of materials that dentists across the nation are buying, and they're trending on buying the low to middle grade products more and more as a way to combat the decrease in profitability that they're seeing, which is crazy because shouldn't it be the patient's option? And it really should, but the unfortunate thing is who pays for that technology? Insurances are dumbing down things, and employer groups are line item vetoing what's covered. And so our businesses are paying for it, but really shouldn't it be the patient? And the unfortunate truth, and man, this is one of my biggest quotes I have made for years and years, no business in the United States that I know of has the same price point when there's a differential in cost of goods except for one, dentistry. We'll hit that more as we go down the road, and that's crazy because we should have a differential in what we charge. And I'm not talking about a one-surface, two-surface, or three-surface composite or all porcelain crown versus PFM crown. I'm talking about the grade of quality of what we can provide, and we all know it's out there. You see, our competitors aren't necessarily each other. Our competitors are truly corporate America. That's where it is. The other competitor that we have is patients forget 85% of what they hear when they walk out of our offices. We don't give them patient information that they can understand to take home to that financial decision maker that might be in the home. That patient we saw that day oftentimes is not that financial decision maker, and that's the problem. Well, I want you to remember this. I want to drill this in, that no business has the same price point when there's a differential in cost of goods except dentistry. And I've just seen that so much that it drives me absolutely crazy. I mean, let's look at gas. I can't go fill my truck up with premium fuel at regular prices, yet there's one code, one description, and one fee for an all porcelain crown, right? And yet we all know that different labs will produce way different results on crowns, and they have to charge us more for the time and effort. And those of us that have CAD/CAM technology, you bought that CAD/CAM for $150,000 roughly, and that's a huge investment. How do you recoup on that? Many times nobody even knows what their profitability is on the technology that they buy. And then let alone consumer choice. Do we give the consumer, our patient, the option of the more expensive products procedures? It's like going and buying filet mignons at hamburger prices. I don't think so. Yet composite filling materials that we have 1, 2, and 3 differentials, but nothing in the composites themselves. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to bring a whole new business line into that. And what about multiple layering techniques and things like that? Where's the consumer choice in the composite space? We go, well, I know what's best, and I'm using a composite I'm happy with. Yet we know there's composites that are $11 a gram, $30 a gram, and they do differ in quality. You see, I worked in the medical field for years. I put myself through school as what was called EMT intermediate or an EMT advanced, and then we had EMT paramedic was the next level. And being in that arena, I mean, all of us have, well, not all of us, I'm going to knock on wood right now, but all of us have had experiences with either ourselves or children going to the hospital and seeing, you get the bill and it's like 5 pages long because they bill for every code and thing they do. Yet we are made to feel guilty. I'm telling you right now, Wes, dentists feel like they do not deserve to make money in this business. I've seen it year after year and training after training. Why?
But Rob, I find that too, and when we sit down and actually talk with the doctors about this strategy, that's the biggest thing that we have to overcome with them, is that they actually are worthy. The clinical skill, the abilities, everything else, the investments. You had talked about the CAD/CAM technology, and I have so many doctors that buy it because it's presented as a reduction in lab cost. And then it sits on the side, it's not even helping them, so they keep making the payments every month and never get anything out of the machine. It's amazing stuff.
Well, they do get time and grade in dusting it, like once a week. I see that. And it's so sad because I use CAD/CAM technology in my office, and man, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I want you guys to know that when I was out in the field, I worked EMS for years, emergency medical services, and if we can get a vein with a catheter the first time or second time, but maybe the third time, we billed for each catheter that we attempted to start an IV line with. And that's just how the medical field works. It's not our fault that veins explode or they're difficult to tag a line in. I mean, it's crazy. And so years ago, you guys, this is what happened. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. I've been doing what I'm going to teach you tonight. I've been doing for 20 years. I had a 17-year-old young lady come in, prom queen, cheerleader, and she got attacked by the edge of a swimming pool, and swimming pool one, and 8 and 9 fractured off. And I was surprised that there was no pulviform exposure, but the amount of fracture on each of those 2 teeth was just too much for composite, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. And I was working with a local lab here in Salt Lake City in Sandy, Utah, and they were, when I say Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, so the city is Sandy, Utah, and they were just coming out with what was called the Procera Elite Crown. And it was just a crown that had multiple layers of clear, translucent porcelain baked on, and man, did they look beautiful. And some of you guys out there know what I'm talking about when the Procera Elite crowns first came out. But they were super expensive. They were about $200 a unit versus an IPS Empress crown at that time was, geez, they were like $80 a unit. And I wanted to use those crowns. And so this family, mom and dad, came in with their daughter, and they were just, everybody was in tears. It's pretty sad. And I comforted the young lady and the parents, and I said, hey, look, we can make these beautiful. I'm sure of that. And we ended up doing a really cool job making sure that when we submitted those, man, they did. She was so happy. But when the parents were there, I said, who's your insurance with? They said, Blue Cross Blue Shield. And by the way, in Utah, we're inundated with insurances and have been for years. I take 28 PPO insurance plans, and I'm not unusual. Every dentist in the state of Utah has to do that pretty much. And so we learned to work with the insurances, but we don't treat. We do not treat to insurances. We treat to the patients. So I want you guys to think about that one for a while. So I called Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I said, hey, look, this is what I want to do. I want to use these crowns. They're more expensive. Can I charge the patient more out of pocket for these? Because I didn't think you could. And I have to give credit where credit's due. One of my mentors, Dick Barnes, was kind of like, yes, you can. You can charge a patient for it. And this is where this concept of upgrading came into play. And so but he wasn't taking insurances very much at all at the time, and we were, all of us out in the real world, were taking a ton of them. So the first lady there said, I don't know, let me put you up to the manager. So I got this lady named Mary, and I owe my life to her. And I said, Mary, this is the situation. I want to use these crowns. They're about $120 more. Can I charge the patient more? Because otherwise I don't make any money off doing them. And she said, Dr. Thorpe, if you'd read your contract, you would know that you can. And I said, what do you mean? She said, it says if you provide a service that we don't cover, then you can charge whatever you want to charge, your fee-for-service fee or whatever it might be on any codes or services that we don't cover. And I said, yeah, but you covered D2740. That's an all-porcelain crown. She said, yes, but what you're talking about, Rob, and we were on first name basis after that. She said, it's called a cosmetic upgrade. We actually have that terminology in our books. And I said, well, really, Mary? It doesn't say that in the paragraph. And she literally sent me to the paragraph and page where it said that we could charge more if it was a service that they didn't cover. And I said, Mary, that doesn't spell it out. She goes, well, you got to kind of read between the lines. You guys don't know business, and you need to learn more business skills. And I laughed at her, and I said, well, okay, I'll admit that. We're not savvy on business. The majority of us aren't. And I said, well, how much do I charge? She goes, well, I can't tell you that, but you need to charge whatever the market will bear. And I said, okay, what does that mean? She goes, well, there's a tipping point. If you charge too little, you'll leave money on the table. If you charge too much, they may go somewhere else. And I'm going, wow, well, these are cool concepts. I'm digging this. And she goes, and I said, well, okay. And she said, the most important thing, though, is you have to have them initial in the charter, sign right below where you say this is an addition, this is a value-added service not covered by the insurance company. And then they sign it so they know that. And so with all these things, when you guys see what we show you later here, you'll know why we created My Dental Docs. And I was so excited. I'm like, I never even heard of this stuff. Read an insurance contract? That's what office manager's supposed to do, right? It's not the dentist. And so for me, Wes's company, CEO Dennis, being a CEO of the company, man, it just took light in my mind and everything that I did. And I'm going, well, Mary, what about composites? They're not all created equal either. There's differentials in cost there. And she goes, well, I've never had a dentist ask me about composite filling material, but Rob, wherever there's a differential in cost of goods, that's a hidden revenue stream, and that's where you guys can charge more money to help compensate for the losses you take on signing up for our PPO plans. And I was floored. She taught me so much, and I'm going, that is the coolest thing in the world. And when she told me that other dentists hadn't asked her about composites, I'm thinking to myself, gosh, other dentists must know all this stuff. And this was over 20 years ago, you guys. And so I'm going, other dentists must know all this stuff. And that's why we didn't start teaching these courses until we started teaching them about 12 years ago, but really started hammering them about 7, 8 years ago, because people have asked me many times, how come you're not out there teaching? I just assumed that dentists already knew this information. But how many of us read these contracts? We don't, Wes. We don't read these contracts at all. And let me give you a case in point. Here's actually a EOB that comes out, and all of you see this, and you can see the amount charged now. We actually don't send the insurance company our fee-for-service fee, Wes, because we've learned by actually communicating with insurance companies, they do not set their contracted fees based upon what our fee-for-service fee is. That's been a fallacy for years. They don't even know where that rumor started. They'd have to hire whole teams of data inputters to put that stuff in. But so you can see where my amount I charge in the contracted fee, which is nice, because then when you look at your statistical information, you know exactly where your production totals are. It's not some big guesswork. And you know exactly what the patient owes, and it's not some crazy thing. So as you can see, look at the bottom there. I mean, here's the thing, is we contracted the first red box. That's the amount we negotiated with the PPO company. We didn't tell them that we would take a lesser fee of the next box down, an alternative benefit. And then the additional remarks, this is what our patients get. The difference between the submitted charges and the negotiated amount is not the patient's responsibility. Yes, it is. It's their responsibility. So I'm seeing practices, Wes, writing off even more money because the insurances send that kind of verbiage to them. Now, folks, we have literally had 3 incidents over the last 2 years where patients have called. It doesn't happen very often, but a patient will look at that, who actually, an actual patient who looks at their EOBs, most of them don't, and they go, hey, you overcharged me. So we'll literally get on a 3-way call with the insurance company and be very kind about it, and let the insurance company know that you can't send that information to our patients. It makes us look dishonest, and we're not being dishonest. We contracted with a certain amount. So what I'm teaching you here, folks, is don't hesitate to push back a little bit, because the majority of us don't believe that we can charge beyond the CDT codes, and that example was CDT codes. But we think that, God, we're held, but we can't increase existing CDT codes that we've contracted with. But guess what we can do? We can create new ones, and technology has brought forth that ability to create new codes and charge for technological advancements in dentistry. Remember, 25 years ago, there were very few choices in materials and procedures that we can do. Now there's a bunch. And consumers, they're willing to pay for value-added service if they understand what it is, and that all comes down to communication. There's a book called Trading Up, and in that book, Schultz from Starbucks and Wexner from Limited Brands, they're quoted in there saying, and I believe this because I've seen it over the years, consumers love wonderful goods and will pay a premium to buy them. And they've said it's called upgrading, or providing or offering a value-added service. And you guys, I've lived through 2 economic downturns in my business, and we still have had over 85% success rate in providing upgrades and value-added service. Now, when the economy is great, like it's better today than it was years ago, we're looking at 95+% of our patients, and in some cases 100%, depending on the procedure and what we're offering, saying, yeah, I want the better product. I'm willing to pay more out of pocket, and I understand the insurance won't pay for it. You see,
Rob?
and I joke, yeah, go ahead.
No, I want to emphasize something that's very, 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 very important, I believe, at this point. I wrote down earlier in this conversation that you said you participate with 28 PPOs, 28 insurance companies, and that you're accepting.
Yeah, did you pass out, and now you just barely came to life? And so go ahead, yeah.
No, I think some of the other doctors might have, and then the 85%. See, there's a strong belief, and if this is something that's going on in the practice, whether it's with the doctor or any of the team members, this strategy, this trading up phenomenon, it's a struggle. You've got to believe that your patients want the best. That, again, you're going to run across some patients in your practice that are looking at their insurance policy, they're looking at their maximum benefit, and they're going to do just what the policy says. But that's not the norm. The norm is that people are willing to get great stuff. They want great care. They want great products. But if they can't differentiate, and this is what this conversation is all about, if there's not a way to differentiate a quality product to a great product, or one that's not a great product, I'm not going to say inferior, but to something fantastic, they can't see the difference. That's what this is all about. They're willing to, if you're willing to show them how this is valuable to them.
Exactly. And that's why, Wes, both of our companies really emphasize the importance of communication skills in the office. An informed and educated patient isn't confused. We always heard the phrase, where vision lacks, confusion prevails. Where communication lacks, confusion prevails. And what's interesting is this last bullet point. This is the one I love joking about. I see my team members all the time. They'll buy more expensive things, and then they won't feed their kids for 2 weeks so they can buy their Apple iWatch and stuff like that. I always joke with them. But that's a middle market consumer. We trade up for the things that are emotionally meaningful to us and purchase those items, and then trade down in other areas. And what we need to do in dentistry is we need to make oral health care a priority. But what do we give those patients to help them compete with corporate America and other things for their their discretionary spending? Because that's where dentistry is at. We have to continue to compete with those funds. We see this in the business world like crazy. I mean, it's all over the auto industry, and it's all over, excuse me, coffee and water upgrades. And what's really funny is our optometrist colleagues, they figured it out years ago. And with vision insurance, hi, you can have these really super ugly frames, and that's what your insurance covers, but if you want these really cool frames, you're going to have to pay more out of pocket. And I'm been fortunate, I don't wear glasses yet, and somebody in one of the seminars that I was doing a few months ago, they said, man, have you seen the pricing of contacts? I mean, they're upgrading contacts now, you know. Your insurance company will pay for these contacts, but if you want the super duper extended wear and you can shoot laser beams out of your contacts, you know, here's these ones, and they cost a little more money. But that's what's really interesting. So we see that in the business world everywhere. Well, in dentistry, at chairside is where we get specific on price procedures. And keep in mind, I want to emphasize this: we only do two. We only do two options, so not to confuse the patient. So think about that, folks. Two options only: composites, crowns, implants, whatever it might be. Empower that patient with knowledge and choice, and don't be afraid to charge for it. We provide an unbelievable service in dentistry. And believe me, having worked in medicine, our outcomes are way more predictable than they are in medicine, and we should charge for it. Well, it's really interesting. We want to help you understand where the dental dollar went, because 25, 30 years ago, insurance companies stepped in about that time, and as we've seen this transition through years, it's like, is it the insurance, is it the economy, or is it my lack of business training that's moved my dental dollar? Well, the economy comes and goes, but all three of those will have an impact from time to time, but it's business training that's killing us, really. You see, fee-for-service happened that's what dentists call the golden age of dentistry. It's the drill and fiddle age, and everybody just paid for their services. And then insurances came in, and then the indemnity insurance is what actually I saw in the beginning of my practice, and it was just PPOs were just starting to phase in back in the 80s, and then they really fully discovered. And by the way, indemnity insurance, you guys, is for you younger folks out there. Patients were given $1,000 that they could use on whatever they wanted, because insurance companies knew that only half of the people out there actually used the dentist, and less than that actually fulfilled treatment. So that's how they made money. So these third parties become the new dental marketing. Sign up for our PPO plan, accept a lower fee, but your wildest dreams will come true with new patients flooding in. And doctor, you'll be able to make up that lost revenue by being busier in your life. Well, we all know now that the dentist with the patient divided by the dental insurance companies, somebody has to lose. Somebody loses in that equation. And the unfortunate thing is it's the dentists that are losing. And we are, and the patient loses also, because we're not offering our patients oftentimes the very best solutions, because they cost more, and so we balance in our mind this overhead problem with our cost of goods. And so there's pressure on us to buy cheaper material, and that's not Rob talking. That's the two major dental company players out there that provide us our products and equipment. And so the insurance companies literally, we take anywhere from a 20 to a 45, sometimes 50% hit in our fee-for-service fee, and the insurance companies are the ones that are making it. Who needs to take over the free market system? Government regulation doesn't need to happen. Insurance regulation is starting to they're trying to tell us how we can treat our patients, and they do not have any right to come between the doctor-patient relationship. And if they do, we all know that that's practicing dentistry without a license, and you use those kinds of phraseologies in a kind way to the insurance company, and watch what happens. Well, we need to know, Wes, what our direct operating costs are. I flew corporate for many years and still fly, and not corporate, but just for fun now. And it's aircraft. It's amazing. There's a company out there that will actually show aircraft owners and corporations what the direct operating costs are per hour, down to almost a penny. They got it figured out. But how many of us in dentistry really think about that? And that's where we really should set our fees, Wes, not by Henry Schein DPAT analysis or a a national data bank of fees based upon our geographical location. But we should add up our bills and everything out of QuickBooks or whatever you're using to track your payments out each month, and add up 3 months worth and divide it by 3 so you get an actual average, and then and divide it by the number of hours you work per month, and that will tell you what your direct operating costs are per hour. And what's scary when we do that?
Before you go ahead here, one of the things that we're proponents of is that the doctor's got to get paid. So when you're actually looking at your direct overhead costs, doctors put in a dollar figure for you to get a reasonable salary to take home to your family and taking care of your kids and your wife and whatever else is going on. I know that, Dr. Rob, in your office, you do that, and it's part of your calculation.
That's correct. Absolutely. And in here is, I mean, I'm not, full transparency, you guys, I mean, you're basically looking at my office right now on this slide. And to keep our doors open and to pay me a minimal salary, the one of your CPAs tell you that, you have to show a minimal salary that keeps you in harmony with the IRS. That's figured into this with everything that I do in my office. And my direct operating costs, I have a cottage practice, and it's awesome. And it's $301.25 per hour. Anything above that will, if we're producing more than that, a little bit will go to overhead, right? But that becomes clean profit. And so based upon those numbers, you have to ask yourself this question. If I do one composite fill in an hour and I get reimbursed by an insurance company at $100, am I profitable? No. And I'm talking to you guys who are just starting out in school. Hopefully you're doing those in like 20 or 30 minutes, but as you get going. But even 2 composites that you schedule out for maybe, an hour, in our fee-for-service fee, for 2 composite fills, I mean, maybe we're averaging $175 per fill, and yeah, then we're profitable. But if we're being reimbursed by insurances with $100 for 2 surface or 1 surface, boy, we're not profitable, Wes. We're in the red. And we hope that in that third bullet, we hope the hygiene department in our practices, the hygienist is going at it, because then we know that she or he are bringing in money in that other operatory, and then we might be profitable. But gosh, what about a PPO crown and a 2-hour appointment? You're toast on reimbursements. You may not even be able to make any money. But we need to be profitable. Go ahead, Wes.
No, I'm shaking my head and I'm agreeing here. Keep going.
Well, yeah, and so this is how we really should set our fees based upon the time it takes us to do a procedure plus 100% markup. We are retailers. We're not wholesalers of dentistry. We're retailers, and that's what's really important, Wes, for people to understand. And in the business world, they control what their loss leaders are. They don't let insurance companies control them. And they're profitable on everything, and that's what we should be. We should be profitable on everything we do. And so on the fee-for-service fees, just as I said, we should set our fees based upon our direct operating costs. That's what DOC stands for, folks, in that second bullet on the left-hand side, direct operating costs. We should see what that is, and then we should put 100 to 200% markup on it. In other words, if it takes us an hour to prep a crown, and our direct operating costs are $300 an hour, a 200% markup on that would be $900 for that crown. And that's how we should look at it. But on PPOs, it's more difficult to be profitable with contracted fees, but we're going to show you how to think outside of the box here. Because these little things we teach you, they're secrets to thriving. These small course corrections, they add up to significant results. We provide such a great service, folks, but somewhere along the line, we feel compelled to give it away, and it just drives me crazy. But we can fix that problem by differentiating products and services and creating new codes and looking at codes that we don't use, and stop giving away nitrous and stop giving away intraoral images, oral facial images. Stop giving away pulse vitality tests. Treat your business like a business. The and the profitability, again, going back to communications, Wes, it's all in presenting to the patient what you're capable of doing, and we term that in the business world treatment marketing. It's knowing what our cost of goods are in technology and charging for it. It's not patient education. Treatment marketing, folks. I want you to think about that one. Well, when we offer treatment, we should offer, I told you already, offer a baseline product and offer a high-end product. So with CAD/CAM technology, we offer a milled lava crown or a milled IPS Empress crown. That's our baseline. And some of you guys might freak out about cementing in an IPS Empress crown, but my goodness, LVI, they still teach that. You can do full mouth cases in Empress. As long as the occlusion's balanced and you bond it, hey, it's great. It works super, you know. Do those crowns fracture from time to time as the years goes on? Sure, just like any other crown fractures. But man, the IPS Emax crown out of the CAD/CAM, that's a monolithic mill and fired in one piece, and all of us who have been using those know that, man, if you got 1.5 millimeters of reduction or more, those crowns, they just don't break. And isn't it interesting, upgrades, I want you to know upgrades have to be offered to fee-for-service and PPO patients alike. You cannot just focus and hone in on your insured patients. You need to do this offering across the board, otherwise it's unethical. And Mary with Blue Cross taught me that. But the interesting thing that I've noticed since I've been doing this, I have patients referring patients to me, Wes, because we give them choice. And they go home and talk to their family and friends, and their family and friends who aren't coming to us go, my dentist never gave me choice. In fact, they open their mouth and got a big old gold crown in there. He said this would be the best for me, but I don't like it. I'd rather have white teeth in there, you know, something that looks natural. And I see that stuff happen still. But we have to be profitable on all the things we do, you guys. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So the whole business concept of providing what I'm talking about, don't complicate life. I see so much complication out there, Wes, and you know what I'm talking about. You know, some folks come in as consultants, and they have to double the size of the staff, and they have to have a patient coordinator, a treatment coordinator, a financial coordinator, a general office manager coordinator for the coordinator. Don't do that, folks. Cross-train your team, and you can run a special forces small unit out of your whole office whole time. So we diagnose, treatment plan for the best, offer the benefits and the features, communicate those options and costs through the treatment planner and your practice management software, print out marketing documents with your practice management software treatment planner, and finances and schedule. It's not any harder than that. And when you present treatment to a patient, believe that they actually want oral health care.
Right.
The way I see treatment presented, Wes, people are scared. Oh my gosh, I don't know if they want oral health care. Maybe they want their gums bleeding still every day. I don't know. No, don't do that. So the truth about insurance is the rules vary. Delta Dental of Wisconsin may have different rules than Delta Dental of California, but as far as I'm concerned as a business, I'm going to treat them all the same. And they're employer group controlled. Here's the crazy thing. Insurances will cover everything, but it's all about that premium dollar that they get paid by the corporations or small companies. It's their client. It's our patient. But remember the term cosmetic upgrade. Some are just using the term upgrade. But cosmetic upgrade, they cannot battle that. That's a value-added service between the doctor and the patient. Well, we take a huge loss, you guys. Gordon Christensen said a year or so ago in dental economics, we run in the red on composite fillings all the time because dentists don't understand what their direct operating costs per hour are. In fact, he said that assistants should get faster, and it's the assistant's fault. It's kind of what he implied in the article. That's how my team read it. And they're like, I'm calling him. I'm going to tell him that's not the way it is. And they're like, you need to teach Gordon how to provide choices to patients and upgrade. That's where the profit's at. Anyway, so that's how we close that gap, you guys. We run our practices like businesses. And again, it's interesting because the large majority of us, again, don't believe we can charge beyond the code. We cannot increase existing codes that we contracted with. We can't increase those values, but we can create new ones. And remember, Our patients want value-added service, and they're willing to pay for it if they understand it. It's called professional selling. It's what it is. Get over yourselves. We sell dentistry all day long, every single day. It's a holistic business system required to effectively develop, manage, enable, and execute a mutually beneficial, and that's important because we're providing oral health care that benefits them not just in their mouths, but in other organs in their bodies. And that's the mutually beneficial thing, for an interpersonal exchange of goods and their services for equitable value. Stop devaluing what you do, folks. We provide an unbelievable value. So here's what it is. Patient comes in, they have a sign, that's what we see clinically. They have a symptom, that's what they feel. Their chief complaint might be something totally different. So speak your truth, listen to their concerns, and act upon the patient's wants and needs, though. What I'm saying here is don't overdiagnose, but don't also underdiagnose. So when that patient walks in, and this patient hurried and brushed his teeth before he ran into our office for his appointment, and that was what we saw before he had his teeth cleaned. Tell them they got, use words that patients understand. You got blood and pus and infection oozing out of your gums, my friend, and you're going to die if you don't get that fixed. And that's what's, those are the action words, or patient speak is what I'm talking about. You see, and then when we take x-rays, we've helped set up what we're talking about, and now we're going to get into the meat of what we're talking about. Oral facial image. I lectured for Dentrix for years, and they did a great job back before Dexys took over their digital imaging. Dentrix had their own systems, and my goodness, there's a code called oral facial image. It's in the diagnostic codes, just like x-rays, and pictures speak 1,000 words. And I see dentists all over this nation taking those, yet they don't charge for them. And I'm telling you right now that all the insurance companies pay for them, but only about two-thirds of them, the insurances don't pay because the employer groups have line item vetoed those out of there. But just because the insurance doesn't pay doesn't mean you shouldn't charge your patient. So if I take 2 or 3 or 4 of these and the EOB comes back, the insurance doesn't cover it, we tell the patient we have to prove the need for treatment, otherwise you'd be stuck with the whole bill. And I'm sorry that your employer group isn't allowing that to be a covered expense. Your insurance will pay for it, so maybe you should talk to your employer group. And tell you what we'll do, patient. We'll split the cost in half for you. How's that sound? You guys, that's just that one code for me alone is over $20,000 a year of additional revenue. So now you should just be super grateful that you're listening to this webinar, because I just shared something with you that's going to bring so much value to your practice if you just start doing it. Well, you guys, I image everything. Those crowns in that slide at the top there with the retractors, those are PFM crowns. That female patient, and that metal was high noble, according to the dentist that did the work on her, and I believe him. I mean, he had the little tag, but that's a true metal allergy that CRA has been touting for over 25 years. We cut those out, put all porcelain crowns in, but because I took that picture, the insurance company was more than happy to pay on that treatment. Pathology and interproximal decay, fractures. As I'm going around the corner there, how many times do insurance claims get rejected because it was more than 2 fillings you did? So they want to see the proof of interproximal decay, so you have to send in the radiographs. Well, I stop and take a picture and charge the patient for it, because with digital imaging, some of those guys that are insurance reviewers have never seen a digital image. They can't see decay like we can on them. And sometimes they'll send it back, our reviewer didn't see decay, so we're denying the whole claim. Well, when you take a picture of it like that, it proves everything, right? So that tooth with the clamp on it and root canal therapy down on the bottom, look at the decay going below the gum line. How many of us don't do clinical crown lengthening? We do it, but we don't charge for it. Well, there's proof why we had to do it. And then the endo, there's 4 canals right there. I got all 4. Don't tell me, endodontists, that patient's in pain because I missed a canal, 7, 8, 9 years later. Endo fells, people, and not from the root up. Oftentimes, it fails from the top down because bacteria crawl under the crown, get down in the spaces, and go to town. There's literature out on that. I hope you all know about that. And then, of course, then there's, Susie down there with the tooth that needs to be, she's 6 years old. She doesn't have the manual dexterity, so we show our patients, hey, look, you need to help Susie brush her teeth because she doesn't have the manual dexterity to brush her teeth. So you guys, this is a power player. I lectured for the first digital imaging, what was it called, the Digital Radiography Congress in San Francisco, and I was brand new. I was scared to death. And I popped this slide up there, and Gordon Christensen stopped me in midstream, and I about had a heart attack. And I want you to look at that on the left-hand side. Those aren't detectable by exploring. You can't see them by radiograph. But when you open them up, there's a decay down inside those grooves, and that little tool, the diagonal dent, that is an unbelievable tool. But we had a colleague, remember, in Chicago that was sued by Blue Cross and half a dozen patients for overdiagnosing. And Gordon stopped me mid-stride and said, he goes, I'm a believer in orofacial images now. He said, if that dentist had done this and proved the need for treatment as he went, he would have never, that poor dentist won the case because CRA and Cabo defended him. And but his name was dragged through the mud through the local media so bad that he lost his practice, Wes. Isn't that crazy? And if you would have just done that, it would have been golden. So anyway, go ahead and advance the next slide, Wes. I'm having, there we go. And if you can, I might have to have you do that. If you can click slide sharing. But anyway, here's the whole point, you guys. Look at composites. Remember when I talked to Mary, here's Henry Schein's Natural Elegance at 1040 a gram, Dan Fisher's product with UltraDan at 1066 a gram. Those are the microhybrid composites. But as you can see, the price per gram with some of these other composites, Filtech is actually $32 per gram, and some of these other ones are at $28 per gram. I mean, my goodness, shouldn't there be a difference that we charge the patient when there's a differential in cost of goods? It's crazy. Next slide, Wes. That's the whole thing. Looking at this slide, it's a busy slide, but this is how we were taught in dental school. As you guys might know, I'm not a professional presenter, and I love slides with information just like we did in dental school. But if you look at that two-surface anterior composite at the top left there, the average fee $175. Here's Cigna, Blue Cross, MetLife, and Delta, right across there, right? And this is what they allow in my neck of the woods. The average fee in the Intermountain States is $175 for a two-surface anterior composite. This is like Gordon in Dental Economics said that there was we're not profitable on composites. We're in the red. If you figure the average overhead is 65% in the dental office, you can see that we're in the red. Now, if you add a $35 upgrade fee, now you're bumping into the 70 percentile, and that's a way better deal to be profitable, right? And that's my whole point. Next slide, Wes. There's with all porcelain crowns too. Arrowhead Labs, that's actually who I was talking about earlier, $315 a unit, and my daughter used to work for Reliable Arts Dental Lab in Costa Rica. Jim Glidewell has Smith Sterling Dental Lab in Costa Rica. There's $236 difference between just the labs that we might use. And insurance companies, Wes, didn't you have an insurance company tell one of your docs that maybe they should consider using offshore labs to lower their overhead? Oh my gosh.
Did. We actually had a conversation, and again, part of it was that we were looking at the reimbursement rates for, they were negotiating with the doctor, and we asked the insurance company, I said, when was the last time you had reimbursement increases? And the response was, it's been a while because of the state of the economy. And I thought, my costs keep going up, the doctor's costs keep going up, they're having, again, to make these ethical choices. I know the products have gotten better offshore, but they're not what Glidewell or Arrowhead or some of the other companies are going to be able to offer to you on a local level and the support and everything, and the doctors are eating it all.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. Go ahead to the next slide. This goes to show you again, looking at all porcelain crown, the average fee out here is $989. You know, Cigna allows $643. We're not even making money on that. Let's say you do an upgrade fee of say $160. I don't care if you do an upgrade fee of $78. You're going to literally take your profit margin and make a big jump in it just by adding a smaller fee. It can be incremental in your area. You don't have to go for the gusto of, you know, you got to find that tipping point. Just don't go for huge fees. We started out at, back in the day, Wes, we started out at like $75 and we went up to $250 and boy, we exceeded that tipping point. We had to pull it back. But as you guys can see, I mean, gosh, I'd rather be in the 80 percentiles with the combined amount of the fee with the upgrade. And that's what you need to look at is, again, what is your direct operating costs and are you profitable based on the time involved? Next slide. So it's crazy when you look at that. Well, you got to know your materials docs. You got to know, you know, what type of implants are out there, or the composites or the crowns. And I would just tell you to start there. Look at the, you know, we use BioHorizon implants as our upgraded implant. What an incredible thing they've done with their laser cuts. The tissue responds so well to those. And then, of course, Implant Direct is the inexpensive go-to implant. So those are our choices for upgrading. Next one, Buzz. Plan the best. Keep the verbiage simple. You always use documents. As you can see down there, there's a treatment planner on the left, the Dentrix one, and the two documents to the right are out of My Dental Docs. And they teach in patient speak, and that's what the patient sees. For example, when we do a ridge augmentation, don't call it a socket preservation or a socket augmentation. It's interesting how they've changed that over the years. They're trying to push us into a reimbursement of like $100 for, and the material alone costs us $100, but we still use the periodontal code, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But that's the kind of document that my patients get that is in patient speak. It tells the patient what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, but it tells you why we're going to do it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Next slide. What a great service that this provides, preserving that bony ridge. You know, we take out that little root there, and we curate it out, and we pack synthetic bone in, and then the bottom side, we put a collagen membrane over the top of that. Next slide, Les. And how many of you guys are offering your patients choice to these things when it comes to extracting teeth? I mean, I'm telling you what, someday there may be a class action lawsuit against dentistry because dentists don't offer their patient this choice. So you sew a web suture over the top of that to hold that implant in. That's called a complicated suture, folks. And I'm going to ask you this $1 million question. What y'all think about it? Do you charge your patients? Do you charge your patients for suture? So many offices, oh no, I just do it for them for free. Well, let me let you in on a secret. Medical doesn't give it away, never has. So when you get Bioplan HTR in our trainings with offices, we teach you how to cut off the end of a 1cc tuberculin syringe and roll the material in there based upon the size of the tooth, or if there's a large cyst in there. So I can actually get 2 to 3 extractions out of one tube of Bioplan HTR. Don't tell the company. They'll probably up the fee on it, knowing that we're able to do that. Next slide. Because that's, I don't know, it's funny. We teach you how to do things in our training and how to save money and make money at the same time. So we like using collar plugs. I don't use collar tape when I put it over. I can't keep collar tape in one location to save my life. But if you guys do this trick, just take collar plug, cut it into sections, and then you'll use just one circular section for just a single root, and you'll use 2 or 3 with multiple roots. And then we take a 1cc dexamethasone injection and offer that service to the patient, because, man, that no post-operative sensitivity on endodontic procedures, surgeries, nothing. And of course, a steroid stings and burns. So the trick is you inject that into the site where you gave your anesthetic, and they don't feel anything. Isn't that great? And man, post-operative pain sensitivity is just non-existent for the first 48 hours. And here's the key. Look at that. Do you guys want to just extract a tooth for $197, or do you want to take and extract a tooth for over $1,400? I mean, that's the key. These are the things that we teach. We take oral facial image to prove the need for treatment. D4263 is the bone graft for the first site, and you can use that code when you simply tell the truth. It's to maintain the periodontal integrity of the adjacent teeth, because we all know that when you take a tooth out, the bone troughs, and sucks in, and pretty soon there's no ability to place an implant there the majority of the time. 3-unit bridges don't fit well, partials, full dentures, we all know the story. The guided tissue regeneration, all those are CDT codes that exist. Now the D4992, that's a created code. See, all those other codes, there's a code for the placement, doesn't say it includes the bone. These were taken from medical. It was never to include the bone because there's different types of bones that we all use, and they all differ in cost of goods. There's your complicated suture, 5 centimeters, therapeutic drug injection, 9610, that's a created code. But it's a CDT code. But 9611 is a created code. You see, if you read your CDT Bible, it says that's for the delivery of the drug. It does not include the drug. Again, they took that from medical. I know, I was in medical. I want you guys to know that this year, to date, we have not had, strike that, erase that. We've had one patient out of all the teeth we've extracted, only had one patient that said, just take it out, I can't afford the other stuff. Okay, great. We don't make them feel bad if they can't afford it. But man, when patients understand how that's going to preserve the jawbone, it's incredible. Incredible service we can provide. Next slide, Wes. And that right there, I want you to think about all the teeth you guys have taken out this year. How many of your patients would have accepted that? Well, for years, you guys, the CDT codes for whitening, there was never a code for in-office whitening until just the last couple of years. So I want you all to know that you've been upgrading, and you haven't even known it for years and years. You've been upgrading whitening, but there's 3 types of whitening: prefabricated trays, custom trays, and in-office. Well, they only have, 2 codes, one for prefabricated trays, or for fabricated trays, and one for in-office. So it's amazing that you guys have been doing this for a long time. In our document center, we have documents for endodontics. It's amazing. How many of you guys, I wish I could see a raise of hand out there, how many of you have cut through old crowns to do endo within a few months or a year later because we didn't take the time to look at the health of the nerve? Well, we know that in the endodontic community, anytime there's canal constriction or chamber constriction, that's actually pathology in the nerve of the tooth, in the chamber of the tooth, the canal of the tooth. The body's laying down calcium, and anytime there's a decrease in blood supply, and we stick a burr on a tooth and traumatize it to death, it needs to heal. Well, if there's a compromised blood flow to that tooth, according to CRA, there's a good percentage that don't heal, and they flare up. So whenever I see that, I now have documents that show why I might be recommending out of those 4 teeth, out of 4 teeth or 3 teeth or 2 teeth or whatever that have pathology, why I might recommend root canal therapy for one of those teeth. And the patient says, well, it doesn't hurt. That's right, it doesn't. But let me give you this document that helps you understand what I'm seeing and why I'm recommending on this particular tooth that we do endodontic therapy before we do the crown. Am I saying to root canal every tooth before we crown it? No, absolutely not. What I am saying, Doc, is take 2 seconds to look at that bite wing and that PA X-ray before you crown the tooth. So you might want to make that diagnosis before then. We've never had documents that talk about conditions. And so when I give that to the patient, whose responsibility is it now? You guys, it's all about treatment marketing. And you can go to mydentaldocs.com or mypracticemybusiness.com where you can see you see what this document center looks like. But when a patient has that and they take that home to that financial decision maker, it's a big difference. Wes has his guys using models too, as we do. We've seen this forever. We show patients, well, here's a lava crown versus an IPS Emax crown. And when the patient can see that, that's an easy sell. They look at it and go, yeah, definitely I want that better crown. But the difference is, folks, charge for it. That's a value-added service between you and the patient. That's a differential in cost of goods and materials upgrade. Charge for it. Don't think that you can't. Well, when we differentiate products and services, that is what really provides ethical choice to our patients. And shouldn't it be their choice, really? That document you see on the far right side is a document that Blue Cross helped us put together. As you can see, it says additional cost per tooth, not covered by insurance, $150 or whatever that dollar amount might be for your practice, wherever your tipping point is. And they sign right there on the top. These are only found in mydentaldocs.com. And so then if they choose not to upgrade, they sign the bottom there. In that paragraph, we actually were helped out by a state insurance company in Nevada to help patients understand that if they don't choose what the healthcare provider recommended, that they take the responsibility for it. Now, we'd never put anything inferior in a patient's mouth at all, ever. None of us would. But there are differences in materials. And remember, upgrades have to be charged equally to both insured and uninsured. Otherwise, it's unethical. And that's so important to do. So just because your fee-for-service fee, you go, oh, I charge already, pretty high amount for my fee-for-service fee. Well, you know what? It's okay to charge more, because where's your fee-for-service fee set from anyway? Chances are you didn't set it based upon your direct operating costs, so you're probably leaving money on the table anyway. Well, again, that's what that upgrade form looks like. Make sure that the patient understands that the insurance isn't responsible for it. And for your fee-for-service patients, it really shows them, too, that, wow, I'm going to go ahead and purchase this better product. Next slide. And here it comes up. We're most profitable, you guys, when we do these things. When we co-diagnose with the patient, let the patient be part of that diagnosis. When they visualize what's wrong, use your intraoral cameras and charge for it. When they understand how you're going to fix it because you've explained it to them, but remember, they forget 85% of what they hear when they walk out. So they leave your office with that informative choice, and it's branded to you and the patient in the office. It's called the cosmetic upgrade. This is this can only be used with technology, but that's where you use it. And insurance companies understand it. It's a value-added service between you and the patient. They can't come between that. Learn the codes, read them. Who owns these codes? Look up these things that we just talked to you about today, and there's many more that we train on. But I'll tell you who owns these codes. The American Dental Association. The American Dental Association owns them. And they lease codes. You're going to be shocked if you don't already know this. They actually lease those codes to insurance companies and to practice management softwares. So is there any reason to not question why they don't stick up for us more when it comes to insurance companies? See, the insurance companies pay big bucks to use the ADA's codes. And a lot of stuff is taken from medical. And medical layers everything. They don't bake anything. And I gave you already the example therapeutic drug injection, but what about local delivery of a microbial agent? That does not include the antibiotic, which would be like Arestin or any minocycline product. Next slide. So think that through for a minute. We need to be able to track what we do, and accounting and accountability are important. So that's why I don't recommend using the D999 or 299 code. We can't track that, and patients want to be informed. So that's why we create codes that say IPS Emax crown or what we term an intrinsic porcelain layered cosmetic upgrade. And it used to be that you just have to pop them into the 299999 if they had flex spending accounts, but now the flex spending accounts are on to us, which is great. You don't have to put them in there. If there's a code that's unrecognized, they still pay on it now, because they know we can create codes. Next slide. the other thing too is it's easy to set up the codes in your software. It's very simple. And these are, have you just back up, I think you maybe already did. These are, back up one, Wes, there you go. These are, if you guys are screenshotting, and please screenshot. We want to share information with you. We want you to be successful, okay? These are some of the underutilized CDT codes, and we train on these. I mean, when we create a limited exam, we create a multi-code we'll mention here in a second, but that multi-code includes pulse vitality tests. You know, all those codes, a lot of people don't use. Local anesthesia, well, Rob, I thought that was supposed to be included in procedure. Well, in the CDT Bible we have, I call it the CDT Bible. Anyway, it's because it's a dental Bible. It's written for us. Anyway, it says local anesthetic is usually included in the procedures, but it's not. That doesn't mean you always include it. We include one carp. If they go beyond one carpule, then we charge for it. We have our colleagues on the East Coast to thank for that, because they're the ones that push back hard. And even though insurances don't pay for it, you know, we charge a nominal fee. But the patient's going to pay for that local anesthetic, the additional that we use. We don't have to give it away. Stop giving it away. Next slide. These are created codes with this next slide. And this gives you an idea of where we create them. We create them some in the unspecified restorative procedure area of the 2990-9192. And that gives you an idea of what of how you create codes and put it in to the multi-code section. Go ahead, next slide. And I would rather have them forget, I'd rather have them delete a procedure than forget to add one. And that's what I love about multi-coding. And you guys need to be using these like crazy with the icons on your charts. Go ahead, Wes, next slide. And this is what it looks like in a multi-code. You can only put so many codes, though, in there, which Dentrix didn't limit that. But as you can see, if you're screenshotting that limited exam, we put in limited exam, intro or picture, bite wing single film, pulse vitality test, oral facial image. And that's what we need to be thinking. And most offices will just charge for limited exam and do the x-ray for free. Stop it. Don't do that anymore. Next slide. Medical doesn't do that. They charge for everything. We should too. Well, the secrets to thriving, you guys, is with need-based dentistry. As you know, I've been talking about need-based dentistry this whole time. I'm not talking about doing big cosmetic cases, although those are very profitable. But these small changes add up to significant results on your practice analysis report. Charge for what you do. Next slide. Don't give it away. You see, the interesting thing about what we're talking about with the treatment planners is it connects with the limbic system. You see, the neocortex is the outer perimeter of the brain. That's where analytical thought, rational thought comes in, but that's not the decision-making area of the brain. The limbic system is. That's where trust and feelings and loyalty happen. And when decisions are made, it's because the consumer, or all of us, whenever we make any decision, it's because we understand why we're making the decision. And that's where our document center comes into play. I can't tell you how many people, once they see that in the hierarchy of the ADA and Henry Schein and Patterson, people that see this, they go, oh my gosh, this actually promotes oral health care. These documents do, because they teach the why, and they don't just teach the why in dental speak, they teach it in patient speak. And that's the power play of those documents. Next slide.
Before you go on the next slide, I'm going to make a recommendation here. You know, earlier you had talked about the book by the Starbucks guys and Wexler. There's a great book called the Start With Why by Simon Sinek. So for the doctors out there watching this and trying to understand limbic and neocortex and things, great support material for you to read to understand. People actually do make decisions emotionally, and they justify with the logic. And that, again, is why when we're having a conversation with a patient, and it's a very clinical conversation, it's very informational. There's a lot of education in it, but that's not how they're thinking. They want to know, what's it all about for me? How does this work for me? Why is this important to me? And they put those things together. The analytical component of it and the rationale, that's justifying the price. You know, if you take a look, when you go out and buy a car, this is so far off the example of dentistry, but think about this. No one needs a Mercedes or a BMW. Well, there's a few people out there, yes, we need it, but it's a car. But we make that emotional decision that that's the one for whatever reason, because we like the safety, we like this, whatever you decide it is. And then you go figure out how to pay for it. It's not the other way around. And it's the same thing with dentistry. And again, these documents that Rob is talking about, he created these and actually hired engineers to come and work with him to do this out of necessity to help him present effectively to his patients. And you'll notice some of the pictures of the ladies in there. Those are people from his team that they're not as clinical as him. They're not as clinical as the other doctors in this conversation. But every one of those team members can connect with the patient, use these tools. And this is not even a conversation or a promotion for these tools. It's just that's what he's using. This is how he's doing it. And that's why you're here today.
Well, it's the ADA has those pamphlets, which unfortunately I see in garbage cans when I go to offices all the time. They hardly even make them out of the building. But these documents they don't throw away because they're branded to the patient with their name on them, and they're branded to the practice, which markets your practice with your logo on them. But I don't care what you use. I mean, if there's some other product out there that teaches the why, then use it. But when you got them chairside, you need to teach the why. I wish the patients remembered 100% of what we told them, because then one of the complaints I had from an office manager the other day, when she saw the documents there, she goes, "Oh my gosh, I won't have to keep explaining to the patient why we're doing what we're doing over the phone 20 times while they're making a decision whether to go ahead with treatment or not." And I thought, wow, I wish I could have recorded that verbiage right there. That would have been a good marketing point for our company, but they just forget. They forget. Yeah. Next slide. It's crazy. Well, you guys, what can you achieve? Do a screenshot there if you want. And we give you guys information, and the problem is you guys will forget 85% of what we tell you after this webinar. But some of you will be able to take that screenshot there and run with it. Others can't. And if you need help in implementing what we're talking about here, that's what Wes and I do. And the most awesome thing is what we train on and we do, we actually put our training, no other company does what we do, Wes. If you don't make money, we won't make any money off you in our training, period. And so what you want to do is you want to identify your products, create new codes, set up multi-codes, and identify the codes you're not using. Take PPOs, don't treat them. Stop giving away your services. Engage with your new knowledge. Next slide. And we can help you with live webinar trainings, or we can come to you on site. That's a little more expensive, but we'll do whatever it takes to help our colleagues. And we don't just charge a ton. We don't charge money unless you make money, and I'll show you what that means. Our software is what it is per month. I mean, but it's very inexpensive. And we created it that way. There's other companies out there like with the statistical dashboard, which we didn't even talk about today, and they just charge way too much for it. Remember, these things were created by me and other colleagues that were in the trenches. We don't want to, we're not here to take advantage of you guys. That's the whole point. We have an intermediate online workshop. If you want to just have us train your team one-time shot because you get this stuff, you want the full information of all the areas you can upgrade in and other training things and communication skills, we're happy to do that for a one-time fee of $19.95. An advanced workshop where we come to you with travel expenses, we can do that. Or you can take the one that most take, and that is we'll do an advanced online workshop and 12 months of mentoring. You'll pay $1,200 up front, so we can at least, when we shut down our practice, and Wes shuts down his, whoever does the training, when I say practice, it's practice of consulting. we charge that, but we apply the $1,200, you guys, to your bill. And when you hear what I'm saying is, we identify the codes that you're not using, and we identify created codes we can create. We do an analysis of your practice to show you how much revenue that we believe we can bring to your practice, and then we bill you off the increased revenue. We don't bill you a monthly fee hoping that you'll gain income. We're not about that. We're actually about helping you increase revenue and be more profitable so you can all retire sooner or be able to afford the things you need to do. So if we bring $1,000 of income to you, we'll charge you $200. And the income we bring to you guys, the increased revenue, it has very little overhead because it's with things you're already doing. It's just with things that nobody showed you that you could do before. And we do that. It's just for 12 months, and then you're on your own after that. And you can contact us at the screen that you see there. You take a snapshot. Doesn't matter who you call. Wes and I work as a team. Our two companies do. And we give you invaluable training, and then we do follow up with you. And we help your teams, everybody get on the same page, and we help you increase revenue through need-based dentistry. And if you want to do cosmetics, great. The concepts are the same, but it's predominantly with need-based dentistry. And that's where we filled that niche in the business world. We teach clinical business. I do. My practice, my business. We teach the clinical business side of dentistry, and then Wes can follow up with additional training if needed through consulting. But he also is the mentor to make sure that the clinical business is being applied and helps you succeed. And again, I want to emphasize, we don't make a dime off of you unless you're making money, and no other company does that. We put our money where our mouth is. Yeah. We tell you the way it is. Just we do not want to.
Very bad pun.
I know. It's kind of an oral health care thing, right? But it's true. We want to help you guys, and that's what we're in the business of doing. We appreciate you guys being on this webinar. Wes and I love working with dentists across this nation and their dental teams, and it's such a fun business to be in. We hope you guys have a great night. Thank you so much for all that you do. I'll turn it over to you, Wes.
Rob, thanks very much for your your presentation tonight and your insight and knowledge. Again, some highlights here is that Rob, again, he's a working dentist. I mean, he's doing this on a day-to-day basis. What this system is all about has been around, at least in his practice, for 20 years. I've been working with him for over 12, and we've been presenting this in practices across the country. And, whether it's a little bit of increase or someone who's mastered it like him, you saw his numbers from the previous page. That's not 1 year. That's not a one and done. He's been doing that year over year over year. And if you're talking about a practice that, is about $1 million practice, and a couple $100,000 of that is from this upgrade or trade-up system, the strategy, you're talking about a significant increase, 25% increase in your profitability. There's not a lot of expense around that. And that's, I think, is what, when our doctors take a look at this, that's what hits home. So give Rob a call. Give us a call. We do work together. We'll put together a process or a system that helps you be successful, helps you be profitable. And again, there's so many things out there that you pay ahead of time to see if they're going to work for you. And we just decided we already know this works, so we're willing to put ourselves on the line up front, help you be successful. And this is just one strategy. There's a whole bunch of other stuff available. But get started with something. Let's build the profitability together. And thanks again for being part of this presentation.
Hey, Wes. One last thing I just want to add in there is,
sure.
And I hope everybody's still listening, is the things that we've taught you in this webinar today. These are things that you can go the next day and implement in your practice. Like, I don't care if it's one thing that you implement. You're going to increase your revenue dramatically, and that's what we're all about. I just don't know of any other companies out there, Wes, that have the capability of teaching what we teach and seeing an instant instant increase in revenue the very next week, just because we're teaching you guys things that you know about, but you haven't done, or things you don't know about that you can do to increase revenue, and do it morally and ethically, and your patients are better off, you're better off as a business. It's really a win-win all the way around. Thanks again, you guys. Thanks, Wes. Everybody have a great night, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon. Good night.
Thank you.